It's your friendly neighborhood soup lady, Caroline Wright here, and I'm going to teach you one of my favorite soups. It's a traditional Irish soup, actually. It's called cockaliki, but that version obviously has chicken in it, and it's a little bit of a naughty name. So I decided to clean it up and use neeps, which is the Scottish word for rutabagas. But all in all, it's just like this really creative, interesting, delicious vegetable soup. So let's get started. Obviously, it has a lot of leeks in it because that's in the name. So aside from that, we do something really cool with the greens. I can't wait to show you. Because it's Scottish, it has a hefty amount of cabbage. Of course, we've got our neeps, our rutabagas, some carrots, a bulb of fennel, which I prefer the ones with fronds. I'll show you what we're going to do with those too. And then we make this really, really cool bundle. You know how like some like peasant sort of soups, you use like a bone. Well, we're doing like a vegan version of that today using the leek greens. We also have some other like delicious flavorings here that come in later. Some actually Irish oats, which are just like the cracked whole oats, some nutritional yeast, and some dried prunes. But first, I'm going to show you how we're going to make this kind of, you know, for lack of a better word, a bone. So you take a like portion of the leek greens, some like nice ones, a little bit of the fronds, 2 fresh or dried bay leaves, and then a couple of cloves. I have 5 cloves here, and I'm just going to put them in the middle of this, and then I squish another leek green over it, and I make this like bundle. And then I use this kitchen twine to tie it tightly together. I learned this, a version of this in culinary school. The French do it too, and it's called fines herbes. So this is a different take on that, but it keeps all of these ingredients together and easy to put in the soup and then pull out. You could also probably accomplish this with cheesecloth, but this is more fun and easy to do. So let's get cooking. All right, we're gonna get cooking by starting with some olive oil. We gotta get those leeks in there. Our fennel. All of these are kind of, sort of hearty chunks, because that's just the way that I like to cook it. I think makes it a fun, interesting texture when it's all cooked together. It's a pretty full pot, but the leeks really do, break down. They deflate by about half. You'll see. So we're going to season it with some salt and pepper. We're going to cook these kind of gently. So leeks, if you've never worked with them before, they really like sort of low heat, and they become like this really beautiful silky texture, and they're really sweet once they're cooked. And I love that with, the fennel and the carrot, that's especially true. So we're going to let this cook gently for a little while until it's like all nice and tender. This is also a good time if, you weren't like me and got everything ready at the beginning. I have all of my chopped veggies and stuff here. While you're like sort of cooking this on the stove, you can step away and start to chop up the rest of your ingredients. All right, it's looking good. So these leeks have reduced by about half, and they're not browned, which is how I want them. And so now what we do is we stir in the nutritional yeast, which kind of acts like a, bouillon cube or something like that, if that's like, or a stock. It gives that kind of hearty, funky flavor, that savory flavor. And then I'm going to add the oats. Just get those stirred in. And then the rutabaga, which I've peeled and just like cut up into sort of 1-inch pieces, nice little chunks. They sort of match the size of the carrots and the celery and things like that, but they're gonna get a nice long simmer. And a small head of cabbage that I've cut into about 1 inch. I've quartered it, taken out the core, and then I turned it into nice like strips. It's going to be so delicious. And then we add our water. And then we nestle this like, herb bundle that we made into the liquid. I'm gonna raise the heat. So now that we've gotten our herb bundle nestled in there, we're gonna add some salt and pepper. Because we just added all that water, we don't wanna dilute that beautiful leek flavor. And the pepper usually, I don't always use pepper in my soups, but this is one where I feel like it can use the punch to balance it all out. All right, so now that everything's in here, I'm going to raise the heat. And I'm going to cover it. I'm going to bring it to a boil, uncover it, and simmer it until the oats are basically tender. And then we move on to our next step. We add those prunes. All right, so now you can see that the soup has thickened significantly thanks to those oats. And our herb bundle has done its job. I'm going to stir in these prunes. We can wait to remove that. We'll remove that before serving. This is just a cup of packed prunes that I've chopped, sort of roughly. I know it sounds weird. It's traditional in this soup, so that's why I've included it. But it's also really delicious. It reminds me another savory recipe I love with prunes in it. It's really delicious. The problem with prunes is you got to make sure that it's not just a big wad of prunes. Got to break them up in there. All right, so we have been simmering this for a few minutes just to finish up the rutabaga getting tender and those oats really getting tender. And this lovely leek bundle has done its job. She looks a little spent, so I'll set her aside. And now I'm just going to give it a taste to check the, salt level. So we finished with some cider vinegar. This is a nice one for early spring because it's so comforting. And it those prunes, it doesn't taste like pruny if you think you don't like prunes. It just adds a little bit of sweetness that, is just delicious without thinking, oh, I'm eating prunes. So I'm gonna make myself a bowl. Delicious, chunky veg, really savory, very cozy. So good. See those big chunks of fennel and cabbage and carrot. So good. Thanks for joining me here this week to make neepsaliki soup. It's in my second soup cookbook called Seconds on page 94. Thanks for following me here on YouTube and at Slurp Soup Club on Instagram. We make more soups every week. I can't wait to share more of my favorites with you. Thanks again.